Sajid apparently has missed all those statements, so hopefully he will take note of what I'm saying in this video so that he can stop misrepresenting me in the future.
I've come together with the One Ummah charity. This winter, brothers and sisters, help to feed those who are in poor conditions and who don't even have the clothing to keep themselves warm. Your small donation might mean nothing to you, but it can change their life and help them survive the winter this year.
The Madkhalis say, do not rebel against the ruler. Muslim skeptic says, do not rebel against the ruler. The Madkhalis say, you should obey the ruler. Muslim skeptic says, you should obey the ruler. The Madkhalis say, advise the ruler in private. Muslim skeptic says, yes, advise the ruler in private if possible. But if it's not possible, then it's permissible to do it publicly in order to serve the greater good. That's it. That's the only difference that is causing these Madkhalis to denounce us as deviants and declare that we are khawarij, dogs of hellfire, and that our blood is halal. And that is really what it means to be a bootlicker. That is what I am referring to when I use the term bootlicker. A bootlicker is not someone who says, don't do khuruj, or don't do takfir, or don't disobey the ruler. That's not what makes someone a bootlicker, because all of those positions are represented in the scholarly tradition. A bootlicker, on the other hand, says, don't you dare ever do amr bil ma'ruf wa nahi anil munkar against the ruler publicly. Don't you dare. Shut your mouth no matter what kind of evil and kufr and dhulm the ruler does. Sorry, akhi, you are a bootlicker. And there is no one from the Salaf who share your deviated view. Yes, there were Salaf who remained silent in the face of the munkar of the ruler, and other Salaf who loudly and openly denounced the ruler for that munkar. But the first group never told the second group to shut up, shut your mouth. The Salaf were not bootlickers like you. When we look at the Quran, the Sunnah, the statements of the Salaf, the statements of the Khalaf, and the fatwa of the senior ulama, past and present, there is so much evidence that agrees with our position and contradicts the view of the Madkhalis and bootlickers. Now, there's one other loose end that we should address. In his video, Sajid implies that I have made blanket takfir against rulers. As proof of this, he takes two separate statements I have made in separate contexts, and he brings these statements together as proof that I'm doing blanket takfir and inciting rebellion against Muslim rulers. The first statement I have made is that no Muslim country today fully applies Sharia. The second statement is that not ruling by the Sharia makes one a kafir. Sajid combines these two statements to claim that I am making blanket takfir on all rulers today. But this is not fair. I made each of these statements in a particular context, and I have never made the blanket takfir that Sajid is accusing me of making. As for the statement that no country applies Sharia 100%, that's obviously true, and I dare Sajid to deny it. Sadly, Muslim countries have been ravished by colonialism and military pressure applied by Western states. For that reason, such societies do not and are not permitted to apply the full range of Sharia rules. This does not mean that they do not apply some Sharia rules or teachings, or that their population and their rulers have categorically rejected the Sharia. In stating that no Muslim land applies the full range of Sharia, I am simply stating a universally recognized fact. As for the statement that not applying the Sharia makes one a kafir, that is simply what Allah says in the Quran. وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْكَافِرُونَ. Whoever does not judge by what Allah has revealed, then those are truly the disbelievers. Now, this is a clear-cut verse that no Muslim can deny. But of course, that doesn't mean we can apply this verse willy-nilly. Rather, applying this verse has many important nuances that an unqualified person like me is not in a position to exercise. But my point is, I have never claimed that whoever does not rule 100% by the Sharia is automatically a kafir. Rather, as I've stated explicitly, there are complex contextual factors to take into account, which is why I have said explicitly on many occasions, leave the takfir to the qualified scholars. We're not going to make takfir and say, okay, this ruler is a kafir, this ruler is a kafir. People might have a problem. The other side is going to have a problem with that as well. We'll just leave it, because we're lay people. We're not scholars. We have no authority. So there's no reason for us to go to that extent. But we just affirm in no unclear terms that if you're going to abolish the Sharia of Allah, you're going to enforce secularism, you're going to put social policies into place that are literally taking Muslims out of Islam step by step and destroying the next generation of Muslims, this is kufr. This is kufr. We're going to be clear cut about that. So one side will say, oh, you're takfiri. And the other side will say that, oh, well, you're murji, you're doing your jet, because you're not going in specifically saying this is a kafir, this is a kafir, this is a kafir. So Allahu alam, that's just my understanding in a quick nutshell, but there's a lot of tafasil. Sajid apparently has missed all those statements, so hopefully he will take note of what I'm saying in this video so that he can stop misrepresenting me in the future. Now that we've debunked Sajid's claims, let's move on to another major issue. And I invite you, Brother Sajid, to have a conversation about these issues. Let's have a dialogue. You have my number. You can contact me at any time, and we can easily set something up to openly discuss these issues. But if you're not willing to discuss openly and prefer to make a video response, then I have some questions that I insist that you address. I would really like to get your answers to the following questions. First, if criticism of rulers leads to bloodshed, then why doesn't your history criticizing US social policy and criticizing US government officials like Ilhan Omar count as a security threat? Number two, if you're so concerned about bloodshed, what about the bloodshed from 2 decades of the global war on terror and CVE policies that are applied in Muslim countries? These countering violent extremism policies have been used to kill and imprison countless Muslims for opposing secular governance on the basis that those Muslims are dangerous Kharijis who should be considered terrorists and extremists. Do you have any concern for that bloodshed? Third, there are around 50 or so Muslim countries in the world. Do we have to obey all 50 of those rulers and refrain from criticizing any of them? How is it possible to do that when these countries often disagree with each other and when even the rulers of these countries are engaged in criticizing other rulers of other countries? How should we decide which rulers should be obeyed and which rulers should not be criticized? Number 4, here is a hypothetical. If soldiers came to a Muslim's house under orders from the ruler to sexually assault his wife and murder his children, if the Muslim father says, "No, don't do this to my family," does that count as khuruj and inciting rebellion? Number 5, imagine there is a Muslim ruler who says, "I am a Muslim, but I'm going to force every Muslim in my country to renounce Islam and become an atheist." Is it permissible for Muslims to publicly criticize the ruler for that? Finally, what do you have to say about Sheikh Al-Albani and his public criticism of Saudi? Is Sheikh Al-Albani a Khariji? Is Sheikh Al-Albani inciting bloodshed? I would like Sajid and any other Madkhali to answer these simple questions. These are questions no Muslim should have any trouble answering. It's only the bizarre, deviant ideology of the Madkhalis that complicates such simple, obvious issues. May Allah rectify our affairs.